For the first 30 seconds, imagine this as a warning disguised as a story. Because what you are about to hear is not just another tale about a haunted doll, but a carefully reconstructed case involving suppressed reports, sealed rooms, unexplained incidents, and witnesses who later refused to speak again. A case that suggests Annabelle was never neutralized, never silenced, and may still be active to this day. Moving quietly from place to place, leaving behind fear, injuries, and unanswered questions. So stay until the very end, because the final details completely change everything we thought we knew. Most people believe the Annabelle story ended years ago, locked away behind glass, blessed, contained, and rendered harmless. Yet this belief exists only because it was convenient, because the official version claims the doll was secured and the danger removed, while the less comfortable truth was quietly buried under redacted files, hushed testimonies, and incidents dismissed as coincidences, even though the pattern never stopped repeating. Annabelle was never just a doll, and the mistake was assuming the object itself was the threat, when in reality it was always the doorway. A focal point for something that never needed permission to stay. Something that does not attach itself to porcelain or fabric, but uses attention, belief, and proximity as fuel, slowly intensifying its presence wherever curiosity lingers too long. After the doll was supposedly secured, strange events continued to surface, including unexplained scratches appearing on individuals who never entered the room, sudden illnesses among staff members, cameras malfunctioning only when pointed toward the containment area, and a growing number of people reporting vivid nightmares involving a small figure watching from the corner of the room, perfectly still, perfectly patient. One of the most unsettling details comes from maintenance logs that were never meant to be public, describing repeated issues with locked doors found slightly open, alarms triggered without cause, and security footage that showed brief moments of distortion resembling a seated shape that vanished frame by frame, as if the footage itself was struggling to hold the image. Even more disturbing are the accounts from visitors who were never told about Annabelle, but later described the same sensations, including sudden nausea, pressure behind the eyes, feelings of being watched, and an overwhelming urge to leave immediately, sensations that intensified the longer they stayed, suggesting the presence did not require physical interaction to exert influence. What makes this case truly terrifying is the timeline, because similar incidents have been reported in locations far removed from where Annabelle was last seen, involving antique dolls, children's toys, and even empty rooms where no object was present at all. Yet the atmosphere, symptoms, and psychological effects matched previous encounters with unsettling precision. In several of these cases, investigators found markings resembling childish drawings scratched into walls or floor symbols. That did not match any known language, but appeared repeatedly across different locations, always accompanied by electronic failures and sudden drops in temperature, creating the chilling impression that whatever was connected to Annabelle had learned to operate without a vessel. Former researchers who initially dismissed the doll as a harmless curiosity later changed their stance after experiencing persistent disturbances in their own homes, including doors opening at night, whispered sounds just beyond hearing range, and objects subtly repositioned in ways that suggested intent rather than randomness. Yet many of these individuals refused to go on record, citing fear of escalation. The most haunting detail comes from a sealed incident report, describing a late-night event in which a staff member reportedly heard soft movement inside the containment room, followed by a voice that did not belong to any human, speaking calmly, almost playfully, repeating a single phrase that translated loosely into an invitation. An invitation that was never fully transcribed because the recording device shut down mid. Psychologists analyzing the phenomenon have pointed out that Annabelle's power may not lie in aggression, but in suggestion, slowly eroding the boundary between imagination and reality, embedding itself into the subconscious where fear grows quietly, feeding on anticipation rather than shock, which would explain why encounters rarely end in immediate violence but instead unfold over weeks or months. This slow burn approach makes Annabelle far more dangerous than sudden hauntings, because by the time victims realize something is wrong, the presence has already woven itself into their routines, dreams, and sense of safety, making removal nearly impossible without leaving lasting psychological scars. Perhaps the most alarming theory is that containment was never meant to trap Annabelle, but to distract attention, to create a false sense of closure while the true source remained unaddressed, allowing the entity to persist freely, unbound by physical limitations. Watching as people convinced themselves the danger was over, Recent reports suggest that similar disturbances spike whenever interest in the Annabelle case as if attention itself strengthens the phenomenon, raising the unsettling possibility that even discussing it may contribute to its continued activity. A thought that forces us to question how many other cases have followed the same pattern and simply gone unnoticed. What they tried to bury was not just evidence, but responsibility. The responsibility of admitting that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. And that objects like Annabelle are not the origin of horror, but reminders of how easily curiosity can invite something that never intends to leave. As this story comes to an end, the question is no longer whether Annabelle is still active, but whether the next manifestation will appear, and whether those who encounter it will recognize the warning signs in time or dismiss them as imagination until the silence in their room feels just a little too crowded. If this story unsettled you, if it made you think twice about what might be watching when the lights go out, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who loves true horror, and leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences. Because the more we talk about these cases, the harder it becomes to bury the truth. And the more prepared we become to face what refuses to stay hidden.